serotonin. Give me souls, take the rest away, take the rest away, take the rest away, yeah, yeah.
Hello, I'm Father Steve Ryan, and I'm here with Brother Kevin White up at the Marian Shrine. And we're continuing a little series called Accompaniment of our Young Salesians. And as a lot of you know, we are interviewing some of our young Salesians in the province of St. Philip the Apostle. So we'll have different young Salesians during these various segments. And today it's an honor to be with Kevin White, Brother Kevin. Brother Kevin White, tell us a little bit about yourself, your vocation story, and you're professed. He's professed now 4 months. He professed on August 16th, 15th, August 15th, this past summer. So, Kev, tell us a little bit of your vocation story.
Sure. So I'm Brother Kevin White. I'm originally from northern New Jersey, and I went to one of our high schools, our Salesian schools, Don Bosco Prep in Ramsey, New Jersey. And through my experience of being in a Salesian school was where I really found my vocation. I think, I would use the word accompanied by a Salesian priest, a little younger, and I found that he was interested in what I was interested in. We both like sports, and I really saw in him this peace that I knew I wanted, and just getting to know him and really what he was about, putting Jesus first in his life, was how I started to pray and started to form a relationship with God. And very long story short, I felt that my experience of God that I had in high school at one of our Salesian works was what I wanted for other young people, and I felt that God was calling me to respond to that feeling by offering myself to him as a Salesian, so that I could give up my whole life so that young people could encounter Christ through the sacraments. That's where I had a lot of profound moments when I was in high school, and just in being present to them.
The Salesian community in general accompanied one particular Salesian, showed some kindness, some interest, had the sports, had the loved sports like you. I'm sure you talk sports, played sports together. And then he kind of also was concerned about your spiritual life, and gradually, did he give you any challenges, spiritual challenges to help you to move forward?
The more I look back on my experience, because that was especially my last year of high school, I was challenged by this Salesian in a number of ways, but also I felt walked with, especially in some of the final days of discernment in terms of reaching a decision of what to do, if I should enter Salesian life or not. This Salesian, we did a novena, we fasted together. So I say that because I did feel challenged.
Kevin, when you went 3.5 years ago to the Formation House in Orange at the Don Bosco residence in Orange, New Jersey, did you say, okay, I'm here, I'm going to give it a year, or I'm going to give it my best, or was it a little wait and see, like if I like it, or you tried to say, I got to give myself to the program? Because that's an important question. You got to come in with a bit of a determination. How did it work for you when you?
I think I went in with the intention of giving my life, but I think at 18 years of age, I wasn't. Now in hindsight, I probably wasn't fully grasping it or knowing the extent of what that meant. But God takes us where we're at, and He, I think, in that situation, allowed me to understand to the best of my ability at the time. And so I think I went in with a mindset of, this was what I chose to do. But at the same time, I think now I'm able to grasp that in a deeper way.
Yeah. How did it feel, Kevin, to go out to the novitiate in California? How did you do in the novitiate? How did it go?
It was a hard year. I think in some ways that's kind of like the novitiate in general. And we also had coronavirus starting in March.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
So
half the year.
It was half the year was kind of in a COVID lockdown. So very unique. I mean, I'll put that out there. But at the same time, I think for myself it was challenging. because it was my first time really moving away from home. Like I'm from New Jersey, and our house in Orange is 30 minutes away from where I grew up. So going to California in that way was a new challenge. And I think at any point in your life, if you're moving somewhere far away, it's going to be a challenge, and especially the first time. So, I mean, with that in mind, it was hard, but I think some of the things that were hard about it were normal.
Mm-hmm.
And the novitiate itself is obviously a tough year in terms of discernment, confronting yourself. And I think those can be challenging moments when you're just confronting yourself, because the hardest crosses to bear in our lives are the ones inside of us. But at the same time, those are moments of joy for me. And I think overall it was a very good experience. It was a good year, a growthful year. Even with everything that happened, God's hand was very much in it, and it's a matter of, I guess, how I look at it. But challenging because of unforeseen circumstances and things that I guess would be normal for my situation, but at the same time, like, God was challenging me when he thought I was ready for it, I think.
Good. Kevin, no, I have to say we're all very proud of you, because as Salesians, it's great to have a young Salesian brother like you profess now on your way as a cleric to Salesian priesthood, but coming from one of our works from Don Bosco, and that the preventive system and that our vocational animation does work. Sometimes it's certain Salesians in a house that are getting more of a charismatic emphasis to bring in vocations, but we're certainly proud of that. How are we doing with accompanying our guys in formation? What in general is working? The Salesian province, what are we doing well, and what might we need to improve as far as accompanying you and your companions in formation?
Yeah, I think like a challenge for myself when I hear that question is that everybody has a different view of what accompaniment looks like for them, especially as a guy in formation. Like, do you, I don't think this is the right thing, but do you want your hand to be held? Do you want to just not have much contact with somebody that would be accompanying you? I think there's a balance in between that. I think a challenging part of the definition of accompaniment is how much is too much and how little is too little, especially for somebody who's in formation, because you're going to be put into situations at some point in your Salesian life that are going to be challenging. You might not have the same support system as you did in formation. Not saying that you shouldn't have a support system in formation, but what I'm saying is there needs to be a balance so you're able to learn how to adapt to certain situations with the help of other people, but also with your own initiative in there as well, I think. I know that in myself, my experience of accompaniment has been very positive. I find that, I wouldn't think we might talk about this later on, but spiritual direction has been very helpful and important for me.
Yes.
And I think in accompaniment, the intentionality of confessors in different stages of formation, or having a confessor in the house or somebody who's available very routinely for myself, that helps to accompany on a spiritual level. That if you don't have that continuity, I can just speak from my own experience, it's not as helpful in my growth and in my formation. As young men in formation, in some ways, I think even if we don't say it, we're kind of craving an experience of Don Bosco, of somebody who is a Don Bosco for us. And that can be a different person for each individual in formation. But somebody who is able to understand where we're at, has walked in our footsteps before, but is also going to challenge us. I find in myself the moments of hard growth in my formation have been when I've been challenged by those that accompany me, in a way that I know that they're still loving me and still caring about me, but they also want to see me grow because they love me.
I'm glad you mentioned, Kevin, that like the confessor, like our monthly confession, or even it could be every 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and I'm sure that that's encouraged. And I think that some of us old timers, if we let that get away and slip, that's something that we should look at too. I was mentioning to Kevin earlier that sometimes as you get older, you think, well, the spiritual direction can be covered kind of with the quick rendicanto with the director, and then maybe going to confession, and that you don't need. But your generation, Kevin, and I think all of us need to learn this, and the congregation is asking all of us of this, is saying, no, really monthly spiritual direction as a regular thing. And you've been having that for all these years.
Yeah.
And that's outside of confession. Are you allowed to pick somebody besides the director? Because that was an old school thing. And how has spiritual direction helped you? And And what do you talk about in spiritual direction a lot of times with your spiritual director? Kevin?
Yeah. I think, well, my experience has been that you can pick your spiritual director. For example, this year we were given a list of Salesians in the area. A list of maybe 5, 6, 7 Salesians that you could go to, and you just make sure that the director of our house knows who you're going to. But so you have that freedom to choose who it is.
Right.
I think for me, spiritual direction every month is something that's kind of been a staple so far. Something that's helped me to confront myself in a way that's allowing me to grow in my Salesian vocation. So it's something that's very important to me. And I think, the things you talk about are, or at least in my experience, are pretty personal. Just being honest, but at the same time, I think because those are the conversations that I'm having, it allows me to confront myself,
Do some of the older Salesians or the formators or old timers like me, do we fully respect the younger Salesians or show gestures of concern, or are we too busy sometimes with the 3-ring circus that we're always running in administration and mission, that sometimes you guys are looking for a little bit more? Are we paying attention enough to you guys, or is it what can we do better to I don't know, make you feel that we care?
Well, my experience has been that older Salesians do care about the guys' information, or at least that's been my experience.
Right.
I mean, even in the Noviate, California, the Western Province, the same thing. People were always asking about us. So I think, being in Orange and Information House, it's easy for people to know, okay, Formation House, therefore this person's information, so they're able to get to know you and ask about you, or you just show that they care about you and the community in general, the guys in formation. I think if you leave the province for a stage of formation, sometimes it can be, it can feel like, you might not be cared about or acknowledged in the sense of how many times you're being reached out to. And again, going back to what you said, there's a difference between holding your hand and checking in, right? So as humans, we're guilty of out of sight, out of mind. So, if you're here in the province, it's easier to remember and to care about different people, but outside the province, and being in California in the novitiate, besides the conversations that I initiated with other Salesians from this province, I don't recall how many times I was reached out to, how are you doing? And I guess probably more than I'm giving credit to right now off the top of my head.
But in general, probably, yeah. I feel like we could do a better job with a card, a note, a text, and a hello. I think it makes a difference, and I think a lot of us got to kind of look at that a little bit more. Kevin, this COVID, and you've experienced this now through the end of the novitiate and now the beginning of your post-novitiate, it has put a damper on our apostolic activity. Our mission it had to be adjusted greatly, and in some cases there are Salesians who are a little discouraged. I'm wondering if it's got you slightly discouraged too, because you guys want to do stuff for the young, especially regarding evangelization and education. And I know it's limited because you're in formation and you're a student. That's your primary duty. But tell me about that. Is it a little frustrating that you guys are the youth centers and the oratories and the passion plays and the catechism and everything? It's like kind of on hold. What's going on?
Being professed 4 months and professing in the middle of the pandemic kind of makes things feel weird, because I'm starting consecrated life in a way that, I'm not having any apostolic activity that's in person. And we have virtual catechism for our parish, Our Lady of the Valley in Orange, but it's safe to say it's obviously not the same.
Right.
So, how do you provide ways of in-person ministry following the deaths and guidelines? In my experience so far of the coronavirus and the different communities, because I've been in the novitiate community and then also in Orange, the response in terms of the apostolate, sometimes there can be a generational divide. And I think it's understandable. So, the younger generations are going to want to get more involved in the ministry, do things, because what you're hearing on the news is that they aren't going to be affected as much, and you think more in that way.
Yeah.
Whereas some Salesians that are older might have the mentality of staying more to ourselves. And I'm not trying to say I am for one or the other, but it can just create frustration or things that aren't communicated in the community. So, a lot of times the appeasement can go towards those that want to stay more insular for the physical health protection, which, it is what it is, but it can create challenges in how do you respond in an in-person ministry.
Kevin, you brought up another thing about like the generational differences. Is it hard for you, like, to hear sometimes the back in my day stories again and again, or like maybe having a director or a Salesian who's a little bit more seasoned, like not even consider social media possibilities or new ways of doing things, or like, I don't know, where are we behind the times, and can you work with that? And how do we adjust? So like this generational thing.
Just in my experience of being in places that are either formation focused or have guys in formation, to have more of a understanding of intergenerational relations or communities. As young people in general, that guys that are in their 20s, 30s, growing up, we received a lot of education on interculturality, and different generations have had different levels of education and exposure to that. But I bring that up because I think it's something that is important, but we also need to emphasize, in my opinion, like the intergenerational dynamic, especially in our own communities. In regards to social media, I think I was one of the first generations that grew up with it, at least in high school. A lot of those things became popular when I was in my first year of high school. So I know what it's like to be a young person who has that as a lot of like their main reality in high school or in any kind of educational setting. So, I think, to be honest, we are a little bit behind, but a lot of times in social media or technology, when you think you're ahead, you're either with the times like one step behind because things are changing very quickly. I think with new communications vision, I see that we have some more active things on Instagram or different social media platforms. And I think the young guys in formation have a understanding of social media, or maybe what young people want to see. And I think it could be especially beneficial in the area of vocation, getting our social media good for vocation, because from talking to other young men, either college students, high school, or maybe a little bit after college, the way that they're finding or trying to discover a religious order or their vocation is through social media. So if we can increase, and I know that Father Dominic is trying, and I think it's going well, to put more things out there, just to get our name out there.
Well, Kevin, the province is getting ready to celebrate 125 years shortly as a province, the St. Philip the Apostle province. So my question is, do you find this still hopeful? Are you hopeful? And would you like to give us a little challenge in the province? Don't be too bold, but give us a little challenge on how we can move forward with some more zeal so that we can get more vocations and keep them.
I am hopeful. Just in my experience of 4.5 years of Salesian life, 3.5 in this province, I've met energetic Salesians, even Salesians that are in their old age, that you get to know them and they're incredible guys. In a way of by age, it might be older, but you can tell that their heart is still with the young people. So that gives me hope. And I think in a number of ways that our province has responded to the different realities of a decrease in numbers in terms of collaboration and things like that. I think we're doing a good job. And just being honest with ourselves and recognizing that we need the help of lay people very much. So in that way, I am very hopeful. I think just being in formation, and the guys that are in formation, there's a zeal amongst us. And that's typical in young Salesians, but I see we're very good guys, so I'm hopeful in what we currently have, but also in our future.
Yes.
I think a challenge for us is to respond in a communications sector, and I think to get involved in where the kids are at. I was reading the other day like a vast majority of young people ages 18 to 34 say that they binge watch YouTube every day, like binge watch, which means a number of videos. So they spend a lot of time online. And I guess my challenge would be just to like breach that gap. You know, it's what we have now in our works is very good. I look at our parishes and our schools, and I'm very proud of what we're doing, especially the populations that we work with. But I think in that way, we can challenge ourselves to maybe grow in social communication, because I think to myself, what would Don Bosco do? How would he respond to young people being raised in a digital environment? I'm very curious to that. So,
Kevin, here's a question for you as we start to wrap up, which is lay collaboration is so important, and we know that even some of the administration and the running of schools, as far as the bricks and mortar and the numbers and even the academic program, is in the hands of lay people, as compared to 10, 20, 30 years ago, where a lot of brothers and priests would do a lot of stuff. And then do you feel like, we're doing okay by turning things over to lay people, and but making sure that we are present and evangelizing and joyful and with them? Or do you feel that there is a tension that some of us want to continue to kind of do the many of the other tasks, and we're not? It's challenging us. I mean, it's a great question. I mean, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I think there needs to be a balance in regards to handing things over to lay people. I think, in my opinion, we need to have a Salesian who's either at the top or close to the top that can still be able to oversee decisions and make sure, because our lives are dedicated to the young. And we know Don Bosco's preventive system. We live it. We've studied it so much. It's our life. So I think that's really important to not, to still have that Salesian influence even at some of the higher levels of administration, but also understanding we need people higher up, because we need to make sure that our schools are running the way that Don Bosco would want, and the way that our Salesian charism and preventive system is.
Kevin, any last thoughts, and know of our prayers and our best wishes for you as you are completing now your first year of post-novitiate. You'll have a second year of post-novitiate in Orange, and then you'll be off to practical training. And the formation process goes fast. As you know, 1 minute you felt like you just graduated high school, and here you are.
Professor.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
But it does go fast, even in COVID times. And that we're with you in prayer. So, any last thought of right now you wanted to say?
No, not really. Just thank you for inviting me up here. It was really great.
It was great having you, and thank you. And we'll continue the series with accompaniment by interviewing at least 4 or 5 of our young Salesians. And today, we were privileged to have Brother Kevin White. And Kevin, Merry Christmas and God's blessings, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Take the rest away. Take the